Hey guys, thanks for coming back and clicking on this video. This is Video Creep, and today we're reviewing Gremlins. What you see is not always what you get. First and foremost, this is a Christmas movie. The holidays roll around, and your TV should be Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, A Christmas Story, Die Hard, Gremlins. I feel like not enough people talk about the fact that this is a Christmas movie, and it deserves its place, Santa. The movie opens up with Dad looking for a gift for his son, and he finds himself roaming around Chinatown. Just a Chinatown. He finds himself speaking to a little kid, and this little kid gets him to go into his grandfather's store. True story. For years I told everybody that Jackie Chan was in Gremlins. I don't know what it was. Maybe I didn't see enough Asian people growing up. I grew up in the Bronx. Anyway, it's not Jackie Chan. And Dad is looking around the store, and eventually he hears a noise. He goes towards the noise and finds a cage covered by a blanket, takes the blanket off, and finds Gizmo, the Mogwai. Something that always bugs me about this movie, no matter what, is that whenever people see Gizmo for the first time, nobody reacts appropriately. Like, if you had showed me Gizmo for the first time in the real world, immediately my brain would be like, Pokemon. The grandfather doesn't want to sell the Mogwai, but the grandson does on the low. And he tells the father the 3 rules of owning a Mogwai. Rule number 1, never give them water. Rule number 2, keep them out of bright lights. Rule number 3, never feed them after midnight. Me, like everyone else, I've always had my beefs with these rules. Like, it's always midnight somewhere. If you've seen this movie, you know that at some point these gremlins drink beer, there's water in beer, but I'm able to suspend my disbelief. We meet Billy, the main character, who's running late for work, and he's having a conversation with his neighbor who drives a tractor for some fucking reason. I don't know. Billy works at a bank with Phoebe Cates, who for one reason or another decides that she wants to dress like Chun-Li. I don't know. It's weird. Every time I see it, she's wearing the blue. It's Chun-Li. When in steps Mrs. Deagle, who is the real monster of this movie, by the way. Yeah, the gremlins are kind of fucked up, but she's straight up evil, son. In the first 2 minutes of us seeing her on screen, she deprives a family of food and threatens to kill a dog by putting it into a dry cleaning machine. That's fucked. Mrs. Deagle gets in there, threatens the dog says fuck you, bites Mrs. Deagle, and Billy almost loses his job. He goes to a bar to drink and draw about it, where he runs into Phoebe Cates again, who is now working a second job, cause bitch better have my money. One of Billy's coworkers come on and hits on Phoebe Cates right in front of him, kinda cock-blocking him a bit, and he hits her with hey, you haven't seen my new place. And she tells him no, and smooth as a baby's back, this guy goes, hey, we're talking cable. That's the equivalent of me hitting on a girl, inviting her over, and being like, we're talking Wi-Fi. But Billy gets home and runs into Mom, who looks incredibly depressed. We see her and she just has that 1,000-yard stare. But then Dad gets home, and she perks right up, and Dad has a gift for his son. Dad gives Billy the Pokemon, and again, Billy, seeing this creature he'd never seen in any textbook or any National Geographic documentary, completely accepts this gift and is stoked. They call it Gizmo. Dad tells Billy the rules, and Billy and Gizmo become very close friends. The very next day, Corey Feldman, who's also in this movie, Before the Angels, comes over to deliver a Christmas tree and fucks up and spills water on Gizmo. The first rule broken. Gizmo starts to freak out, he falls on his stomach, things start flying all over the place, and when they go to look at what is coming out of his back, it is new baby Mogwais. Something that I've noticed that a lot of people who watch Gremlins question is, why is Gizmo the only good Mogwai? And I have an answer for that. Gizmo is not the only good Mogwai. A lot of people don't know, but the origin of the Mogwai is that they were actually aliens. A scientist developed them to be the perfect pet, but 1 in every 1,000 was actually good. So there's something like 3 really good Mogwais in the world. All of the other ones turned out to be really mischievous. If you're ever interested, look into the background of the Mogwai. It's fucking weird, but it's fun to know. So Gizmo makes new Mogwais, and these are not like Gizmo. These are shitty. They're kind of mean. and they start doing bad things, like hanging the dog up by its body with Christmas lights. Billy takes one of the Mogwai to his high school scientist, because apparently in this town that's the smartest guy around, and he squirts a drop of water, making one more Mogwai. Back at the house, Billy looks over at the time, notices that the Mogwai are kind of hungry, and decides to feed them. Not realizing that the bad Mogwais have chewed the wire to the clock, and Billy feeds them after midnight by mistake. Broken rule number 2! Billy goes back to see the scientist, and at some point in the night, the Mogwai also was able to eat after midnight, and the science teacher tells Billy that this is a cocoon state. And back at home, the Gremlins have already hatched. And we learn a very valuable lesson, which is, Mom is a fucking badass. The Gremlins come to attack her, and she grabs a knife and just starts going to town. She puts one in a blender, another in a microwave. She's holding her own. But Stripe, this guy right here, is able to escape. Billy gets home and he's able to chase after Stripe, but it's way too late. Stripe goes to a YMCA pool and jumps in, and the same way if you drop water on a Mogwai, it makes more Mogwai. If you put water on a Gremlin, it skips Mogwai and goes straight to making more Gremlins. And then just hundreds of Gremlins are begat from this pool. And from there, it's just 10 to 15 minutes of just Gremlins wreaking havoc. And you would think that that would get tiring in a movie like this, but it's not. It's a lot of fun. They start destroying the town and stealing tractors and driving them into houses. And the movie parodies are ripe in this scene. There's a callback to Flashdance, old detective movies, and an awesome scene where all the Gremlins decide to get fucked up. They're hanging out in a bar, getting loose, listening to music, smoking cigarettes, and playing poker. These Gremlins are having a good time. Billy is able to go into the bar and get Phoebe Cates out, where she tells a terribly depressing story about why she hates Christmas and her dead dad. It's a little misplaced, but it's what we got. Eventually, all of the Gremlins pile into a movie theater. And then this is where Phoebe Cates and Billy are able to trap them in there and set the building on fire, leading the building to ultimately explode. Were there legal repercussions? We don't know. We never get to see that part. But I'm going to assume that they weren't. And in a weirdly emotional scene, Stripe, who wasn't in the movie theater, he went to go steal candy for everyone or something, actually sees the building with all of his gremlin babies, sees them die, and he lets out a little scream, a little painful yell. And I feel bad, but not for long. Billy, Phoebe Cates, and Gizmo go after Stripe, who runs into a mall, and Stripe is not fucking around. He comes after them with everything he has. At one point, he has a chainsaw, a gun, a fucking bow and arrow. He's armed to the teeth. And he finds his way to a water fountain where he's gonna try and make more gremlins. But then at the climax of the movie, Gizmo comes in and he saves the day. He opens up the blinds, and in a beautiful spectacle of special effects, you get to see Stripe mutate in the sunlight, which is something that we hadn't seen in this movie before. We'd seen them freak out around bright lights, but to see what exactly happens when exposed to direct sunlight, it's fucking gnarly. Not Jackie Chan comes back to reclaim his Mogwai and tells Billy that he is not ready. With great Mogwai comes great responsibility. And the movie ends. Final thoughts about Gremlins. Who doesn't love this movie? Anyone that I've ever interacted with who I've spoken about Gremlins with, it's been one of two reactions. Either they haven't seen it, or they've seen it and they love it. And I don't blame them. Gremlins is a fun movie. And yes, while it is a Christmas movie, you can watch this movie all year long. There's never a time where it's not fun to watch Gremlins. You can get drunk and watch Gremlins. You can be bored and watch Gremlins. You can cook and put Gremlins on in the background. This is a personal favorite, and I highly recommend it to anyone who likes creature features, especially miniature creature features, because that's a whole subgenre. Trolls and ghoulies and the little creatures from the gate. We love our little monsters. But those are my thoughts on Gremlins. If you've seen it, drop me a couple comments below. Let's talk about it a little bit. And if you're enjoying these reviews, hit the bell, subscribe, and I will see you on the next one.